Paul, this is going to be the last question that I have for you, and that is, since you are an entrepreneur or of entrepreneurial spirit, we have, right? You are.
I guess so.
Yes.
Yeah.
The evil E word. Mm-hmm. But if you could impart a piece of business advice that you've learned over the years, one piece of business advice that you could offer folks, what would that piece of advice be?
Aside from marry rich, it would be, okay, which I did not do.
Yeah, that's good advice.
No, I mean, I'm not sure how valuable this will be, but, a lot of people ask, how can I do what you do, and how do you, that kind of thing. There are a lot of people who start blogs or podcasts or whatever. It's easy to start something, but you need to offer something unique, and that's going to be different to the individual. I mean, we're all different. And you need to stick with it. The one thing I told someone who works for Leo a couple of years ago was, I've been doing WinInfo since 1994. I've been doing the supersite for Windows since 1998. I tend to stick with things, I can't guarantee that the quality is going to be there, but I'm going to stick to it, And I think that it's just, if you have something unique to offer, and that's what you should be offering, Years and years ago, one person who made a really big difference in my life was a guy from San Francisco, Adam Ray, who I worked for a couple of years at a startup out there. And I had been writing this WinInfo thing. And it's funny because WinInfo started as a blog.
Right.
As we now know a blog to be. There were no such things as blog.
Nope.
So I would quote from, at the time it was PC Week, which became eWeek, or Information World. I would say, here's this story in this publication, and here's why I think this is important to your job or whatever. And Adam would say, nobody cares about this eWeek story, or I'm sorry, PC Week or whatever it was at the time. What they care about is what you're writing, and that's the thing. You need to just write it, Mm-hmm. And of course, it was horrifying to me in the early days. So, you want me to write this thing? Really? I mean, that sounds like a lot of work. But yeah, I think the important thing is just to, it's almost, I don't know how to distill this down to something that makes any sense, but it's basically to figure out what you're good at and do that. Don't do what everyone else is doing, and stick with it. You have to be willing, you have to love what you're doing enough to be willing to do it for nothing. And if that's the case, then that's kind of the ultimate career.
Let me just give my wife that news from you, Paul.
Okay.
He said it was okay for me not to make any money from this.
Well, I don't know if you know who Gary Vaynerchuk is, right? He's the wine guy. He does the wine podcast.
Right.
He's also kind of a crazy entrepreneur, and he published a book sometime in the past year, and he said, we're sort of taught in this society to think that we have there's something wrong with us, but if you don't jump out of bed every day and if you're not always thinking about this stuff, if you get up every day and you think I want to do this, then you're onto something. I mean, I think that's an important way to look at it. I absolutely have something wrong with me wiring, from a wiring standpoint, but it allows me to do what I do every day, and I like to do it. And it's, if I lost my job today and, whatever, had to get a job, I would still be following the tech news and probably blogging about it in some way. I would still do what I do essentially because I just care about it so much. And certainly I did it for years without being paid.
There you go. I always like to give my guests the last word. Is there anything you would like to say to the audience before we go to the post show and do a little Q&A?
No. I mean, other than thank you for having me on. I appreciate it. I'm always happy to do this kind of thing, and I just, like I said, I enjoy talking about technology, and I think that it's not, it's not like curing cancer, of course. Although I think technology eventually will cure cancer, but
right.
It's as it becomes a bigger part of our lives every day, I think it's important to understand what's going on and be clear-headed about it. And hopefully that's something we can all, do rather than be, snowed under by people who have, agendas or are trying to sell you something, just to see the world for what it is.
Okay. Would you mind?